countdown means.
Okay, wait. It says everybody born between 1985 and 1995 saw the Super Bowl halftime show lineup and was like, sweet. Instead of doing a show for old people like the Rolling Stones or Paul McCartney or The Who, they did one for us young people. And then 10 seconds later, it hit us. Totally. We're the old people. Look, do you see how old Snoop Dogg is?
He's 56.
Welcome to a super episode of the Friday Night Movie Podcast. This is an annual tradition. We have him back himself. Mark Aronson, aka Bobby Buttons, is back from his perch in the advertising world. He's come down to mix with the mortals, and we're going to talk Super Bowl. Bobby, welcome back.
Great to be here. This is exciting.
We love this episode when this is fresh off of the Super Bowl. Lily and Becky, how are you doing?
Great. I'm excited. This is I think one of my favorites every year, of our annual specials, because I love me some advertising.
Okay, so before we get into advertising, though, let's just
I'm good too. Hi.
You didn't answer.
You didn't answer.
I was letting Lily complete her sentence instead of cutting her off, as we like to do in this family.
That's fair.
So excuse me for following social norms.
The way Lily has been rolling lately, you've got to move fast.
Coming in hot.
Coming in hot.
I have to say, I don't know that it's the I didn't know it was the Super Bowl. I knew
you just thought it was a football game.
No. Oh no, I didn't even know there was football. No, it's the opposite. I didn't know there was a football game, but I knew that there were very important commercials that were happening on Sunday that needed to be paid attention to.
That is fair at this point.
I'll say the question I answered most from Becky, her husband, her children, my wife, my children, at least 5 per person was who is in this game, who's playing this game. So, which I think is refreshing.
Don't you? It is refreshing because it's not a Patriot.
It's not
always
Tom
the
Brady,
Patriots
so
or Tom Brady. But don't you think it should always, like for ratings, it should always be the LA Rams because the amount of celebrities that were there last night. But it seems like it was a bit higher.
Here's the thing. The Rams started in LA for most of our life being aware we're in St. Louis. So they're a legit LA team. So I'm happy for the Rams. And I'll get to this in a moment when we talk about the halftime show. Let's talk about the halftime show. What I thought was really interesting about the halftime show is you had Dr. Dre, who was part of NWA, who were famous for wearing the Raiders gear in the 90s, the Los Angeles Raiders gear in the 90s. And I really was expecting at least him to come out wearing the Raiders gear.
Maybe he wanted to, but they did not let him.
They're in Las Vegas now, so it couldn't work. There's something I missed a little bit of a tribute there. Now, that being said, I thought this halftime show was excellent. It was cohesive. It had a great theme. I thought that it's really hard to make hip hop work in a stadium because it's so verbal. And they did a great job with the pre-production. Well,
I thought the sets were amazing.
Yeah. And the set was really cool. I thought it was really thoughtful, the way that the going in and out of the houses and the sort of sense of the neighborhood. I thought that was really, really cool. The musicianship was fantastic. And I thought the flow was really cool. Great choice of artist. Mary J. Blige, fantastic.
So on that note, I read a very funny tweet or meme or something. It said, "Oh, this is awesome. Instead of picking like bands for old people, like Rolling Stones and Paul McCartney, they pick like cool artists for like younger people." And then pause, and you're like, "Oh, wait a minute."
Yeah,
that's like for us, like we're the old people now, Shy.
Yeah, that was
like if it was cool young, it would be. I feel like it would have been. I don't know who cool young artists are, but I mean, I think all these people are very cool.
To me, that's a.
But those people like younger, yeah. But those 15-year-olds aren't necessarily watching the Super Bowl and then buying the stuff
I think it's a great choice of artists. I'm very happy with it, but I understand.
But now we're the old people. That's why
they're catering
to play
us.
the Super Bowl.
They're catering to us. Like, why was it so amazing to have Mary J. Blige play the Super Bowl? It's because they're catering to us. And that is amazing to us. We're very excited about that. We are the generation of people buying stuff now.
And I also thought was really interesting from a music standpoint, the celebration of Dr. Dre specifically that was woven into that. I would say, and people might dispute this, but to me, it was like Quincy Jones in the 80s. They were giving Quincy Jones level respect to Dr. Dre in that that started with him, closed on him. His job during a lot of the program was just mixing. He was like doing the soundboard a lot of the time. I thought that was very cool to me.
He was I thought he was very cute the way he was like singing Snoop Dogg's song with him. I thought it was just very sweet.
He helped bring him to. He produced all these guys. I mean, there's no Eminem without Dr. Dre, right? He was there. So I thought that was a really, really excellent. Like, I just like the way. And there were no randos shoved in. There's nothing I hated more when you're watching
the fillers.
Bruno Mars, and then you have to watch the Red Hot Chili Peppers in the middle of that.
Slash, and then they just throw Slash on stage.
Yeah, exactly.
That was hilarious.
That was so
There's no
dumb.
Slash coming out of the floor. They just did one great through and through performance. Every part of it was well thought out. I thought that, and also Snoop Dogg is a really big football fan. And so his connection and commitment to football is really valuable. And he hosts the Puppy Bowl, which is a really big deal for my kids.
Huge deal in your house.
Huge deal. But also, if you remember who Snoop
I just
Dogg
want to say, I'm not going to get into details, but your children behave during the Puppy Bowl as our father behaves during football, where there could be no distractions or no conversations that were not directly related to said bowl, to the point that there may have even been a confrontation between your children and my children because my children were distracting from the Puppy Bowl-ness.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Well, now
I respect it, but my kids are 4, 2 and 4.
So it was excellent. All right, so let's turn to our conversation about the commercials with advertising guru Mark Aronson.
I was going to say Titan.
Titan. Yeah, he's a Titan.
Titan of advertising.
I'm going to change my LinkedIn.
Titan. So, Mark, set the table for us. Every year there are certain trends. There are things coming into the Super Bowl that brands are trying to do. What were some of the things that you saw coming into this year?
Sure. Well, the first is, this just happens every year. Every year we're like, can you believe what it costs for 30 seconds? So the same thing this year. They raised the price again, right? 6.5 million, 7 million.
The rumors out there, it's 6.5 to 7 million for 30 seconds.
Exactly. And so, the other thing, just as we talk about and think about some of these spots, is there's that, right? The cost for the airtime. But then, right, if you look at celebrity talent, music, production, right, in a lot of cases, you have a similar sort of cost for those spots. Most of the time, the rule is you spend in production 10% what you're spending in media. But in this case, obviously, you really had, when you're dealing with Arnold Schwarzenegger, or,
So can you ballpark what one of the more expensive ads would have been?
Oh, sure. Well, Colin Jost, Scarlett Johansson for Amazon, like that pair, like either one of them, and especially Scarlett Johansson would have been, right? So you're talking, in the high, maybe close to 10 million, like in terms of, for their time and talent and that kind of stuff. Nobody does it lightly. And especially the duo and whatever, you got to imagine that really would have been kind of over the top. So
plus the airtime. So that's
I can't imagine how much.
It's like a $30 million commercial.
She's one of the most highest paid. Isn't she the most highest paid or one of the most highest paid actresses?
Well, put it this
Hollywood?
way: when she didn't get paid enough by Disney, she sued them and basically won.
Don't start. She is.
It's because they didn't release.
No, I'm saying I'm not saying she didn't deserve it. I'm just saying that Scarlett Johansson is a baller.
She knows she knows her worth. She knows her worth.
There's
Okay,
no
so
way
we're
you're
saying
getting her in that
respect her a lot.
commercial.
That 2-minute commercial was minimum like close to 40 million.
Maybe was it 2 minutes? Amazon?
I think it was 2 minutes.
Well, they have like lots of little commercials.
But the whole that's a good point. I don't know, was it shown
like
the whole way
one
through?
Big story. So there's like the full story of Alexa reading their mind and then saying out loud what they're thinking, and there's a whole story arc there. And then each one of those scenes can actually be broken down as its own little commercial in and of itself. So it's very well
but they still but they still paid for the time. So
so what are some of the other trends you were seeing?
So you have celebrity, which actually is, there's always celebrities in Super Bowl, as this year was especially celebrity filled. And then I think, it's sort of interesting. Like last year we were mid-COVID, right? We talked about some altruism. We're not doing a Super Bowl ad and we're giving all the money to whatever. And you sort of, a lot of the kind of quote unquote brand purpose kind of stuff was really absent here in terms of brands taking a stand or brands, showing
completely
right. And back to, product led spectacle and that kind of stuff. So it's really interesting how the pendulum has kind of swung, back that way. There was only the Budweiser, that lame Clydesdale ad.
Right.
We're down.
Where the dog made the Clydesdale feel better?
I actually skipped watching that one. I was like, another Clydesdale? Okay, we get it.
The Clydesdales weren't even there last year. I was so happy to see, but it was late in the show.
Do you want to know, fun fact, anytime we've gone horseback riding, this is one of the reasons Vlad refuses to go with me ever again. He always gets assigned a Clydesdale because he's so tall and he's so sick of it. So it's so embarrassing to be put on one of those giant animals.
That's amazing.
And what about the
everybody
big
else is on
normal size horses and he's on a Clydesdale? Lots of funny family pictures.
And what about the big products? Last year it was seltzer. This year,
seltzer.
Crypto was supposed to make a big impact. There was a lot of crypto.
I
didn't see any crypto.
Well, so and that's telling, Lily, because there was 4. right. So that's something that we should unpack. Crypto, and it was very interesting, right? There was only one ad for an internal combustion engine car, right? But many ads for EVs and that kind of stuff. So
those made an impact.
Right?
I think we can just say the Dr. Evil one was the best one.
No. I've very strong opinions on
the Sopranos.
Actually,
you like the Sopranos one.
I didn't see that one.
It's Dr. EV ill.
Right.
Yeah.
How good is that?
I thought it was pretty great.
No, didn't get
very good.
Can I actually vector in here as we start to break down the commercials and talk about not the celebrity piece, but there was the nostalgia pop culture theme that was deeply, deeply ingrained in this. And even though a lot of this stuff was marketed to our age right on, which I usually love, the cable guy, we're still doing Austin Powers. I love Austin Powers, but Parsha Players at camp isn't using Austin Powers anymore. it did not.
Or are they? We don't know.
I think you are onto something. And I do think that if you're going to get the Jim Carrey to be in a Super Bowl commercial, to me, it's a waste.
Jim Carrey being the cable guy.
Yeah, it's a waste to me. It's a waste.
Why would you have him do Ace Ventura or The Mask?
And have him do Ace Ventura, The Mask. Don't put him in the worst role he's ever played just because it has a telephone in the title, like actual cable. But to me, you are the genius that made and created Dr. Evil. You can do him till the end of time. And I will be happy to watch him.
In the Dr. Evil makeup than he did in the Wayne Uber Eats makeup.
Exactly.
Wait, he was in 2 commercials?
Last year was Wayne Uber Eats.
But to me, those nostalgia ones, and I did think the Chevy Silverado with the Jamie Lynn Sigler and the kid who played AJ on The Sopranos driving out to the Sopranos music was kind of cool.
Well, that was actually a shot-for-shot remake of the Sopranos.
Okay. So what I want to say, the reason why the reaction to that I think was, whoa, this commercial is so good. It's because you're watching the intro to the Sopranos, which is so good. But is the commercial good? No, the Sopranos is good.
My point while I was watching is that somebody thought that Many Saints of Newark movie was going to be way bigger than it actually was.
Oh, the show. Isn't it a show?
No, it's a movie.
It was a movie.
Oh.
And
exactly, Lily, exactly.
Yeah.
Jamie Lynn Sigler is super talented, but I couldn't tell who. Like, I had to know because I always
like Becky said,
pretty that was her.
Like Becky said, is that actually a good commercial? Like, when does the nostalgia jump the shark?
No,
and it's not even.
No,
a good
what
commercial.
I'm saying is that it's a great commercial, but it's not that you're watching a great commercial. You're watching a great intro to an iconic television show that you love. I don't think it has anything to do with whether or not it's a good commercial, because it's just a good intro. So you could take anything that's great, slap a car at the end, and be like, "See, look, it's good."
Well, I think that's it's kind of an important theme when you're talking about ads or commercials or whatever. Like, the term that they talk about a lot in marketing is borrowed interest, where you have stuff. Ideally, a good ad has the product as some type of, or the brand is some type of catalyst or some type of reason for the storyline, or reason, right, that that for interest in the ad or in the story. And a lot of the times here we're just seeing like borrowed interest, which is like, what is that telling us about Silverado? Like, if not for, right, or I think you had a lot of sort of laziness with the celebrity interest there.
Whereas the Alexa one is inherently tied into the funniness of the commercial, is the purpose of the product.
Right. And so, it's funny not to get too like inside baseball or whatever.
Get inside the baseball.
But
get inside the Canadian rules football.
Yeah, get inside. Yeah, we're gonna kick this one for a rouge. Rouge. It's when you punt it through the end zone, you get a point. CFL thing.
Nobody knows.
Rock might know.
Nobody.
That was a good tweet.
So yeah, how do you put this? Ad agencies have had really a terrible couple of years, right? Like, first, COVID happened, all the clients shut their spending off, and then agencies are like, at a loss for revenue, money, like, as an absolute shock. And trying to stay afloat like all kind of businesses. So there's reductions in staffing and all that kind of stuff. And then it turns out the pandemic is actually good for a lot of brands and marketers and products and whatever. And it bounces back quickly, but these layoffs have happened. You have the Great Resignation happening, and there's just a total drain on talent. In agencies, and they're trying to find people, and they're trying to hire, and and it's just been brutal, right? Not to mention, everybody's been working remotely, which let's be honest, is totally fine. Everybody's privileged. Everybody has internet access. Everybody has. We're not talking about essential workers and hardship, but there is something that happens in person in ad agencies when you're crafting.
Right. Well, the creative.
Exactly
artistry that goes into it,
right? When you can actually look at something together with somebody, and you're looking at, you have things up on the wall, and you're looking at things, or you can kind of collaborate that way. That's missing, frankly. And I think just watching these ads, you're kind of I kind of went into the game feeling like, come on, guys, like, we can we
win
got
it
this.
For ads.
Take
some big swings.
And I just sat there being like, everybody's just struggling. You can tell, because there's so many ads that were just like missing the craft, or missing the it could have just.
Right, I love talking about the negative first before we get into MVPs. I want to give you all my worst ad, but then I'd love to hear everyone's
I want to hear
Bronce's,
Bronce's,
and Bronce break them down why they're bad, and then he can tell us his worst. Okay, so to me, the single most offensive and upsetting one was Dolly Parton implying that she was going to get like her mammogram, it seemed like, or like that we were leaning towards, it had the pink. She was talking about getting a test. She reaches for her breast, and then she pulls out her cell phone, and it's a T-Mobile phone. And I'm a big T-Mobile fan. I'm a loyal customer. But to me, that was like a violation of Dolly Parton, who's this, untouchable brand right now, untouchable character.
And
who people
did some amazing, wonderful things in the last few years.
Right, exactly. You're using her where you could be using her to give a serious message, one of those altruistic messages, and instead she's just hawking cell phones and making a play on something else that's more serious. So for me, that was one of the biggest fails of the entire.
And Miley Cyrus is in that too.
I also feel like T-Mobile generally. It's funny. I watched. As I was watching, there's a hashtag that I was following. This, to not to be nerdy. There's a hashtag that I was following, right, which is advertising strategists, tweeting about these ads. And somebody was like, after the Zach Braff, somebody's like, I think I hate T-Mobile. And it just, there was that, and then frankly, that kind of We Are the World, T-Mobile ad about doing it for the phones,
right?
Was also just like
brutal,
ham-fisted, brutal, like so. Not a good showing. Not a good showing.
Okay, so Bronx agrees. T-Mobile.
And do you think when it's a bad ad, does it hurt the brand? Does it actually hurt the brand, or all press is good press? Because they spend collectively on those ads, 100 million more. That's a lot of money to make back.
I think you really have to. You really have to do something brutal to hurt the brand. To be honest, I think a lot of people just having it top of mind or keeping it in people's thoughts is generally good, right? But I think you really have to do something bad. there was I don't know if you remember this, but it must have been 2011. Groupon, which was really hot at the time, did these ads, and it was meant to be tongue in cheek, but where they were sort of trading on things that were happening in Tibet or that kind of thing, and it was so offensive. Whoa. It was so offensive. The backlash was so crazy that literally, that's part of the reason Groupon doesn't really exist anymore. Wow. But a lot of the time.
Bad or good is okay. So bad or good isn't the issue. It's more of incredibly offensive will get you in trouble.
It's sort of an interesting thing, right? Because generally, right, there's two kinds of things you could do with ads. There is the quote unquote brand building, big equity, help people understand the story of the brand. This is kind of a long-term fame building, perception building, kind of thing. That traditionally everyone has felt like, Super Bowl ads are great for that because it's a big stage and you can tell a big story and that kind of thing. And then there's the smaller things, which are kind of short-term, promotions, call to actions, that kind of stuff. And so it was interesting. Most of the ads in the Super Bowl this year, stayed in that brand building territory, but you had a few kind of very interesting Coinbase, which we should talk about.
Oh yeah, we got to break that down.
Went totally the opposite way. So sorry, Shay, I'll let you.
Well, I just want to hear from Billy and Becky. What was your worst ad?
It was absolutely the Dolly Parton one. Actually, yeah, I completely agree with that. I had an adverse reaction when I saw it.
Yeah, it was very bad.
Mm-hmm.
Lily, what about you?
I didn't see that one, so I'm sure I would agree with you. But in the meantime, I would say the Jim Carrey cable guy was pretty horrible. And the one...
It's also a brand that I hate. I hate Verizon as a company.
Okay. Well, mixed with one of the worst Jim Carrey movie. So I don't know why they thought that was a good...
They play sort of a play on it. So the thing they're watching is some joust in the background. So you have to know they went to medieval times in the movie to get what they're watching on TV.
Nobody's giving a shit. That was so bad. And then I don't know if you guys saw this one, the one with the Mannings and Bradshaw and all the chips and all the drinks. And that commercial must have cost a gajillion dollars. And I know they have so many brands. Mountain Dew is doing fine. I don't think that they lost money, but that when it really now makes sense to me what you're saying, it just seemed like the laziest throw a bunch of football celebrities in a commercial and have them eat chips, watch them eat chips. I don't want to see anybody drinking or eating anything. Sell it to me. Be smarter. Don't sell me the Doritos food and drinks. Don't sell me food and drinks and have somebody actually eat or drink those things. because no one wants to see that.
Did you see the Doritos commercial?
I have to. Well, I'm sure it's brilliant.
Pretty fabulous.
And it's the same brand. I just don't know what. Also, does it work, Mark, to throw every single brand into a commercial?
It's tough, to be honest. It's really tough, right? Because exactly like you say, who was that ad for? Right, and which brand does it help you remember?
Dentists? Because those people are, if they're eating all that shit and drinking all that shit, they're losing their teeth.
Gastroenterologists.
Or like cardiologists.
This is Zantac commercial.
Exactly.
It's secretly
it was
a
Tums
commercial. Amazing.
It was all about the Tums.
It's
a great, So that was the one I thought was the worst.
And what was yours that was the worst?
Repeat the question, please, Shai. Sorry.
Like, why was that bad? Why did I not like it so much?
And what was your worst? Also, let's get to that.
Yeah, well, I think it's for the exact reason you were sort of saying. Like, what was the point? What was the takeaway? What was the story? Like, it wasn't that easy to follow. It wasn't telling you anything really. And so, to be honest, the thing that really helps people enjoy ads the most, aside from humor, music, whatever, is like you actually freaking get the point fit. Or what it's there for, whatever. Do you know what I mean? And I think, often it's easy, when you're doing a Super Bowl ad, and so what happens is, right, a brief comes in, the client's like, yeah, guys, we found the money, we're doing a Super Bowl ad, right? And the goal of this is to top the USA Today ad meter. So then everybody's focus is like, okay, what are things that do amazing in Super Bowl ads? Celebrities, humor, whatever. Do you know what I mean? And that becomes, and they sort of lost the plot here about like, could this actually be a cogent, ad where you walk away from it?
Right.
The worst ad for me, and again, sorry if this is too insider, was one for Cutwater, like ready to drink cocktails. I don't know if you remember seeing it.
Which one was that? Who was in that?
I'm gonna look it up right now.
Yeah, look it up. It had
what brand is this?
Cutwater.
With a C?
Yeah, Cutwater. Cutwater. And it started with the line, "Here's to the lazy ones." And essentially what it was a ripoff, a homage, if you will, or whatever, to one of kind of the most legendary Apple ads, which was called "Here's to the Crazy Ones." Right. This is when back when Steve Jobs was turning Apple around. They didn't even have new computers yet, right? So they put this ad out. Here's to the crazy ones, right? Featuring just incredible, achievers. Muhammad Ali, Mahatma Gandhi, just narrated by voiceover done by Richard Dreyfuss, just this incredible, right? And it launched that tagline, "Think Different." So it's like a pearl of incredible advertising, genius at the time that really did a lot to change the expectations for that brand or whatever. And then so here's this mixed cocktail brand that's like that steals the cadence and all that stuff from "Here's to the Crazy Ones." And they think it's going to be funny, and they think it's going to appeal to a wide audience to use that reference and term it "Here's to the lazy ones." Right. So there's that.
Probably very few people got that reference.
Right. And I'm just like, don't fuck with that. Like, come on,
just a huge ripoff.
Yeah. There are certain things that are sacred.
Right. And then the other thing for me is just selling a mixed cocktail is hard. Right, because really, what's the benefit of it? What it saves you time or whatever. But then to say, okay, the real thing that I want you to know that's amazing about this is it's good for you if you're lazy.
It's really selling to like the lowest common denominator.
Right, but everything sells to the lowest common denominator, but we make them feel good about it.
Right. No, I mean, that's what I mean. I mean, it's so that when you then show up to a party, people are like, "Oh, cool, you're super lazy."
Yeah. Are you too much of a piece of shit to mix your own drinks? This is for you.
That's what I meant. Like it's not even.
You don't think anybody on that creative team, no one thought to say that?
Well, look, I think probably what they did. Well, I think probably the way they sold it was okay, right? Because I'm sure, right? What's the truth? What is that kind of really kind of powerful thing about that product that's interesting or useful or delicious or whatever it is, they probably were having a hard time with it. So they were like, okay, you know what? It's ready to drink. So that's what we're going with, ready to drink. Well, what does that mean for people? And then well, you don't have to do anything. It's already ready. It's lazy. And so I'm sure they went and said, you know what? We're going to turn this into hyperbole. And we're going to turn this into hyperbole by spoofing one of the most legendary ads of all times. And we're going to call it, here's the lazy ones. And I just, I could see that presentation happening. I could see that. And I think, for me, it was just, I don't know. It's funny that nobody else even noticed it. I was just like, oh. So
all right. So let's talk about the best. All right. So let's talk about the best commercials, ones that don't violate the soul of an advertising genius. Mark, what were some of the ones you thought were the best? And then tell us why. And then we'll go around the same thing. And then we'll have you tell us if we're right as to why we like certain ads.
Should we talk Coinberry, or do you want to save that?
No, let's talk Coinbase. If you think that was that was my number 2 or 3 ad, because I am one of the most uninterested in crypto, not cryptocurrency, but NFTs, but I'm not interested in, but crypto is not something I was excited to see promoted at this. And I actually think there were 2 very good crypto commercials, but the Coinbase one, I was impressed, because holy moly, a QR code, and how much the QR code has exploded during the last 2 years as something people use. 2 years ago, you couldn't expect people to know what to do with the QR code. But then I ran across my kitchen and they gave me enough time to get my phone open and put it on the QR code. And then I was like, God damn it, Coinbase. And I immediately got off the page. But as far as an ad, I hadn't never seen anything like that.
So a little bit of context, right? That they bought a 60-second spot. Right. So that's not 7 million. That's 14 million just for the time.
It felt long on purpose. So people could.
Exactly right. And so it's interesting, like I was talking about before, usually what you're wanting to do with a Super Bowl ad is fame or perception or something where you're making people feel a certain way about the brand. This was a growth hack, basically in the craziest way possible. And it's sort of interesting as I was looking more into it. Accenture Interactive was the agency that did it. So this wasn't like a bunch of startup, whatever guys being like
cool snowboarders drinking matcha in the mountains.
Do you know what I mean? Or yeah, let's just fuck with the Super Bowl. Like, do you know what I mean? Like there was clearly, professional advice and some thought behind it. And I think it's super interesting in terms of what they needed to do, right? They could go
Can you explain this to people who didn't see the ad, in case there's anyone who didn't see it?
Essentially, for 55 seconds, you had a QR code bouncing around like that old DVD, thing used to bounce.
Oh,
around.
that was the ad? That's what they paid 14 million for?
Yeah.
And it changed colors.
And it changed colors.
It was a screensaver.
Right. And a QR code bounced around
with no branding, which I thought was brilliant, because if I had seen that it was Coinbase, I wasn't going on. If I had seen anything crypto, I wasn't looking at it.
Right. Then at the end, they sent you, or they referred you to the website and dropped the Coinbase logo. And so if you did click on the QR code, which I did so that we could talk about it, it took you to a special offer from Coinbase when the site hadn't crashed. It took you a special offer from Coinbase where they offered you $15 of free Coinbase coin currency, Bitcoin, to sign up. So when you start to think about cost, right? Not only did they spend $14 million on airtime, they spent nothing on the ad. So that's one thing. But then $15 per person to sign people up, right, is a major cost. So it's just kind of interesting. You have to imagine, right? What they could have done was what the other crypto brands did, was come in and either say, we have a better way of doing this, like FTX did, or don't worry, crypto's the future, or you can trust us, or whatever. Instead, they opted because this is so transactional, because really it's once you have the app, that's your way of dealing with crypto. It's not like you walk into a store and you're like, which chip should I buy? Right. And you go to a gut feeling that you have about, a brand.
The product.
This is right. Like, you have to have it on here, you're dead. They just went for it. Right. And they figured, okay, we're going to get 170 million people watching this. Let's go all in on converting people and getting them to the app. And so
it was pure call of action.
Pure call to action.
What
I've been reading this morning is they had 20 million hits. 20 million people go check out the site, so much so that it crashed. And so I don't know how many of those people signed up, but you have to imagine for Coinbase, they have some calculation, which is like, normally it costs us X amount of money to acquire.
To get a client.
Right. And acquisition costs is a big thing people are talking about now because of the way things are changing on Facebook and that kind of stuff. Everything's getting more expensive to acquire a person. So I'm sure they imagine like, okay, if it costs us $100 to acquire somebody normally, what can we do if we put all this money into a Super Bowl ad and basically try to, supercharge?
It's pretty risky. It's pretty wild.
And so, in the ad world anyway, that a lot of people are talking about that at the moment.
Well, just that alone,
we thought it was pretty cool.
That's a one shot though. All right. That's not no one's doing that twice.
No one's doing that twice.
But I think that's what proves a good ad. It's a one shot. It's one time that you do it and it's brilliant and it's blows people away and that's it. You can't use it again. That's the point.
I would say by comparison, there's a couple that not only did I love watching it, but for how good it was, I want to see the TV show. So one of them was Anna Kendrick in the Rocket Mortgage with the Barbie. That was a masterpiece. I watched that and I said, this is the one to beat. And then the other one was Keeping Up with the Joneses. Like, I need to now see the buddy comedy with Rashida Jones, Tommy Lee Jones, Leslie Jones, and then Nick Jonas driving up at the end. That is gold. What bank are they breaking into to rob? What sports team are they going to manage? I don't care. I'm watching that group do anything. And that was Toyota. And so both of those to me were excellent. Bronze, did those resonate with you at all?
Yes, totally. And by the way, I think that the Rocket Mortgage Barbie ad, won the ad meter.
I think it did. It did.
Oh, really?
I think it. Yeah, I was looking at that.
And so what's interesting. So yes, the one thing that just kind of that kind of gnawed at me a little bit. Anna Kendrick was great in it. She's been in Super Bowl. She's just good for that kind of moment and that kind of like bit of comedy. And like we were talking about before, it was clearly about the product and it really put that in great context for you. In fact, right, Rocket Mortgage
and about financial accessibility. Like, I actually think that it was a very like practical thing about like home ownership and credit. Like, I like that about it a lot.
Yes, and I think that what we have is now such a negative experience for people that are dealing with trying to be homeowners. And that kind of thing.
Right.
That, this is a way. I don't know. There was still a twinge of that where it's like, this really does suck for people. But I think puts a product in a good light, trying to sort that out. And then I really agree with you on the Joneses. Like, that's just a fun way of dealing with trucks. And that you know what I mean? Like, because.
Like trucks.
No, but I think it's true, right? You get, you still get your driving footage and your 3/4 angles and all that kind of stuff. And they're in this.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's a great point. Because I'm going back to your original point of, if you're not showcasing the product, then you're kind of missing the game. And I think the casting, it makes me that commercial makes me really think of casting. Can you cast anyone as long as you can pay for it? Because whoever had that idea, I would have been like, well, those are such random Joneses. How are you going to get them available on the same day, assuming that they were on the same set?
Available on the same day.
I guess, yeah.
In 3 different
completely
cities,
different yeah, I guess so. But even still, you need them available in order to make this. And then a Jonas brother who's pretty of all of them right now, I would say is probably the most famous in terms of popularity.
Right.
So I was impressed with the casting.
Well, and I think to your point, right, or like and what we were talking about before in Borrowed Interest, like this is at the core, this is a story about the new Tundra, the new truck, like taking you far places, going off road, going in the mountains, like that's the action in the spot. And so what you have though is now kind of this layer, right, that doesn't take away from that. Actually, when you're talking about King Jones's, like, right, it's kind of, you know, this layer of fun that still, they're still doing what they need to do to show off a brand new pickup truck. Do you know what I mean? And it's
right.
All that kind of stuff.
So the one that I kept coming back to, I don't know, Becky, did you say yours?
Of the favorite?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we should all go around. I'll let you go
I already
first.
went, so you both should go.
Okay, so if you're thinking,
I'm split between a few. So Shai already said Rocket Mortgage. So I guess because he already said Rocket Mortgage and that's already been named, I'm going to bring up I was surprised and it's because I was surprised at how much I liked it. The Lay's Rudd and Rogan one, specifically the last shot when it's clear that it's a Jewish wedding that he's having.
Okay, wait a minute. So here was what turned me off about that. Here was that he
had an interfaith marriage with a zombie,
or that Jewish women are
was
zombies.
The literal demonization of
the Jewish woman.
I guess
it was literally like Seth Rogen's wife is a demon woman,
demon zombie
under the chuppah, and
it's an interfaith marriage because I don't think she's Jewish.
If she isn't, it's almost better for me.
No, his real life is Jewish. I'm kidding.
No, because I don't want to. I'm not. It's not a comment on interfaith or whatever. But this thing that we've been talking about and that we've been breaking down about, like the way Jewish women are portrayed.
Exactly. In my mind, I'm like,
demon is Jewish, so I think it was fine because she's. I don't think she's Jewish. I think it's showing that like Seth Rogen would have a Jewish wedding even if he's marrying a demon. Like that's still important.
Okay,
but what I
do. Okay, that part I think.
What
is
I liked
positive.
about
Bronze is like in the ad world. This is what we hope doesn't happen with her.
No, well, I think
this is not the takeaway that people should have.
It's worth noting that Evan Goldberg, Seth Rogen's longtime writing partner, wrote and directed it.
Is Jewish.
Hold on. No,
the zombie is Jewish.
So my reaction to it, I can't believe you said that because my reaction to it is, I think the reason I liked it is because it felt to me like Paul Rudd and Seth Rogen actually wrote this ad themselves. That it wasn't written by a typical advertiser, but it felt to me that it really lived in the world, within the world of their comedy, of their films, and the parts of their of their comedy films that I do like and enjoy. So
it's really funny that you put it that way, because I was having this reaction that I couldn't place to it, which is like, I don't know, like it feels like it's underwritten or it doesn't have the polish or there's something. That's great. Because ad people didn't write it.
Okay, that's what I enjoyed about it is that it really. A quick point. This brings me to a quick point. Like, Shai, we can't finish this episode without me asking Mark.
Yeah, and then we have to wrap.
Right, but this I'm going to say two quick things. This episode had that commercial had a trailer, which was equally as funny. But that brings me to what are your thoughts on that? Now we have to watch these trailers and then comment on the trailers. Although this particular commercial did have a funny trailer.
I mean, the Schwarzenegger thing.
I can't even with that. We don't have enough time on this podcast
but it had a trailer also,
and it was terrible.
So it's just the world of the expense of these things, coupled with the pressure to have like 360-degree campaigns, full funnel marketing, where they're just trying to get more mileage out of the investment that they're doing, and feel like whatever you can get, because it was years ago people were when it wasn't the default thing to have a teaser for a Super Bowl ad or whatever. People were getting mileage about it and more conversation about it. And, are people going to tweet about it? Are they going to post it on social? Are they going to be, excited for the moment when it airs? And so I think now it's just become like the default.
Expected.
thing.
Right.
We're just going to take a lot of swings, with this investment that we're making.
The funniest one though was, I think it was last year or 2 years ago with the Crocodile Dundee 3 with Chris Hemsworth and Danny McBride.
Yeah.
I think
I actually thought that was a real movie, and I was so sad when I realized it wasn't.
I think there should be a rule now. If a commercial gets a high enough vote from the fans, they have forced to make at least a streaming special.
Agreed. And I just want to mention the Zendaya one.
I think it's Zendaya.
Zendaya, is it? I'm really bad at pronouncing people's names. I'm just going to officially say that on this podcast.
I knew it was Squarespace right away because I feel like I'd seen the fake website at the beginning of that again, and I immediately zoned out, and I didn't like the commercial.
I thought it was very cute because it really explained the product too. Like, I thought it was adorable. I mean, Andre 3000 being in it at the end didn't make sense to me. I think that's who's in it at the end. I didn't. Maybe I'm like, oh, I guess we have Zendaya, who's amazing and obviously so now. And then we have Andre 3000 for me, the old person, who's like, oh, is that who that is? But again, I thought the production was really pretty. I loved that they had her in it because she's so, everybody's talking about her. And then it really explained the benefit of having a good website.
So, what company do you use to make your website?
I use WordPress because I didn't choose. That was somebody else that chose.
No, but you're not changing to Squarespace now.
But I might. I thought it was so pretty. I could.
That's some good USA Today ratings right there. Okay, we have to wrap. Let's get a quick recommendation, Mark, from you. What should people be watching?
I had to prepare for this because I don't really watch it. So I recently watched two things that were amazing. One is The Rescue. It was a documentary about boys out of the cave in Thailand.
Yes,
and it was absolutely I just keep thinking about it, floored by it. So it was made by the same couple, the same directors as
Free Solo people, right?
Solo.
Yeah, it's
and it's absolutely, there's two amazing
Jimmy Chin and of course I can't remember his wife's name, but Jimmy Chin and his wife. Yeah, which is horrible. She's obviously
who is
so talented.
I can look it up.
As strong a part of that team as he is, and it was just amazing. Because they have footage, like these guys were in GoPros, like they have footage, like incredible footage. And then the other thing is, there's just the arc of it is masterful, where there was literally only a few people in the world that could rescue these boys. And they are all like loser, loner, middle-aged cave divers that have the weirdest hobby in the entire world. And they choose this hobby because they don't like being around people and they like being on their own under the water in these caves. Yet, right, these guys, these just regular guys, are thrust into a position of being literally the only people in the world.
So it's the true story of Armageddon, too.
Of Armageddon?
Yeah, like when they send the gas guy, like when they send Bruce Willis and Michael Clark Duncan and Steve Buscemi into space.
By the way, the other director is Elizabeth Chai, and we just said I'm terrible at pronouncing names. Elizabeth Chai Visar Heli. That's her. I'm terrible at pronouncing last names, but she's the other amazing director.
What's the other one?
The other one was Station 11. Which was on
everyone's talking about that.
Yeah, like the topic seems like it's not something I want to see, but everybody's talking about it.
Everyone's talking about Station 11.
And I do love what's her name.
I resisted it because really a pandemic friggin' show.
Right, exactly.
And then I was isolating with Ellis because he had COVID. And I just started watching it, and it's just the way they do the story, the way they
that's on HBO.
Yeah, just brilliant. I
love Mackenzie Davis, and Himesh Patel is really good too. So those are great recommendations. Thank you.
Joy.
All right, Mark, where can people follow you?
Great. You could maybe Twitter. You can get me at Mark Aronson, MarkAronson.
And in the commercial world,
I like that you're not committing to this. Maybe on Twitter,
just like Lily and Becky.
You're not going to get anything.
That's like me and Becky, but I feel like also just watch some advertisements. You never know; you might be following Mark at that exact moment.
Exactly.
And Lily, where can people follow you?
Chichi K Gomez on Twitter. ChiChik Gomez.
Beck
at Paper BK Princess, maybe on Twitter.
And you can follow me at Pancake4Table. All the Friday Night Movie shenanigans at Fry Night Movie. Becky and I will be at Farpoint, the convention in Hunt Valley, Maryland, on February 26th. We're going to tape an episode of the show. We're also going to do podcasting for kids, so come check it out. It's going to be awesome. And the theme music is by What Does It Eat? Thank you again to our amazing guest back for his
at
least annual performance. Titan of the ad industry, Mark Aronson. Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks.
Great to see you guys. Awesome.
Bye.